Welcome back to the Nightmare Crypt. Lock your doors, dim the lights, and whatever you do, don't look behind you. Tonight's story is a personal account sent in by a viewer who says this happened one Christmas and that they don't know how much time they have left to warn you. I don't celebrate Christmas anymore. I don't put up lights. I don't play music. I don't even leave the TV on. When December comes around, I unplug anything that can make a sound, and I sleep with my phone face down, on silent, across the room. I don't answer calls after dark. I don't open the door for anyone I'm not expecting. This isn't trauma talking. This is survival. What happened that winter didn't fix me. It didn't teach me a lesson. It didn't make me kinder or wiser or grateful to be alive. It taught me something worse, that some things don't want forgiveness, and they don't want redemption. They just want to be heard. I'm writing this now because the carols started again last night. It was faint, just a few notes, but I recognized it immediately. I'm not going to explain the song yet. I can't. Not if I want you to keep reading. Not if I want you to understand the shape of the fear before you hear its name. All you need to know for now is this. When you hear singing where there shouldn't be any, when the sound feels too close to your ear and too far from the room at the same time, don't try to identify it. Don't hum along. Don't open a window to let it out. And whatever you do, don't listen for the next verse, because once it finishes a song, it starts remembering you. I was working nights that December. Warehouse inventory on the edge of town. It was boring, repetitive, and quiet in a way that made time feel thick. I lived alone in a small duplex. Cheap rent, thin walls, bad insulation. Pipes ticking. Wind pushing against siding. The hum of the heater cutting in and out like a tired breath. Christmas had never meant much to me. No family nearby. No traditions worth preserving. I bought a frozen dinner, a six-pack, and planned to sleep through the holiday. The first strange thing happened 3 days before Christmas. I came home just after 2 a.m., boots wet with slush, fingers numb. The neighborhood was quiet in that dead, padded way snow creates. I unlocked my door and froze when I heard music. Singing. It was low, muffled, coming from somewhere inside my unit. My first thought was the TV. I'd left it on by mistake. That happens when you're exhausted. I stood there, keys still in my hand, listening. The sound drifted and wavered, like it was coming through a wall or through water. I stepped inside. The lights were off. The TV was off. The kitchen was exactly how I'd left it. No one there. The singing stopped the moment I closed the door. I stood in the dark for a long time, heart thudding, telling myself it was the neighbors. Someone walking past with a phone speaker on, someone messing around, but the walls were too quiet for that. And the song, it hadn't sounded distant. It had sounded like it knew the shape of my living room. That night, I dreamed of snow falling indoors, thick flakes piling up on my floor, muffling my footsteps as I tried to move. Every time I opened my mouth to shout, the snow slid in instead. I woke up with my jaw clenched and my ears ringing. The next day at work, I forgot my badge, then my lunch, then my phone. Little things, annoying things. I laughed it off with a coworker and told him Christmas was messing with my head. On the drive home, the radio cut out under an overpass. For a second, through the static, I heard a voice trying to hold a note it couldn't quite reach. I turned the radio off and drove the rest of the way in silence. That night, the singing came back. Not loud, not clear, just enough to make my skin tighten. It was coming from the hallway. I didn't check the hallway right away. I sat on my couch, coat still on, listening. The heater clicked, the fridge hummed. The singing slid in between those sounds like it belonged there. It wasn't cheerful. It wasn't sad. It was careful, like someone practicing. I grabbed my phone and hit record. I wanted proof, something solid. The moment I stood up, the singing stopped again. The recording caught nothing but static. That's when I started losing sleep. I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between noises. Every creak felt intentional. Every silence felt like a held breath. I started waking up right before my alarm, heart racing, convinced I'd missed something important while I slept. On Christmas Eve, I found frost on the inside of my windows. I mean that literally. A thin lace of ice curling along the glass, even though the heater was running and the rest of the apartment was warm. When I touched it, the cold bit straight through my skin. I scraped it away and the pattern came back an hour later, thicker this time. That evening, while microwaving dinner, I heard footsteps above me. I live in a duplex, no upstairs, just attic space. The steps were slow and deliberate, pacing back and forth. Dust drifted down from the ceiling vent. I stood there holding a fork I'd forgotten to put down, pulse pounding in my throat. Then the singing started again. This time it came from the attic. It was closer now, clearer. I could make out words, though they didn't quite line up the way lyrics should. Verses overlapped themselves. I caught myself whispering along before I realized what I was doing. I don't remember deciding to speak. The words were just there, sitting in my mouth, like they'd been waiting. That scared me enough to finally call someone. I called my sister. She didn't pick up. I called a friend from work, straight to voicemail. I stood there in my kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, listening to the song bleed through the ceiling, and felt something shift inside me, like the house had decided I was staying. Somewhere around midnight, there was a knock at my door. Just one, soft, polite. I didn't answer. The knock came again, slightly harder. Then a voice, quiet, almost apologetic, started humming on the other side. That was the moment of pure panic. My hands shook so badly, I dropped my phone. I backed away until I hit the wall, heart hammering, breath coming too fast. The humming slipped under the door frame, curling through the room like smoke. I realized then that it wasn't trying to get in. It was checking if I was listening. I don't know how long I stood there. Minutes, hours. When the sound finally faded, the silence felt heavier than noise. That's when I noticed the snow. It was drifting down from the attic vent, melting on my floor. If you're still listening, this is your moment to decide whether you want more stories like this. Subscribe to Nightmare Crypt, but only if you're willing to carry what you hear with you. Some things don't stay in the video. I spent Christmas Day in the dark. I unplugged the heater. I wrapped myself in blankets. I sat on the floor with my back against the couch and watched the hallway. Every so often, the singing would return, faint and incomplete, like someone flipping through stations. By evening, I noticed something worse. The song wasn't coming from the house anymore. It was coming from inside my head. Not loud, not constant. Just a phrase looping when I tried to think of anything else. I bit my tongue hard enough to taste blood, just to make it stop. When night fell, the temperature dropped fast. My breath fogged. The frost crept back over the windows, spreading into shapes that looked too intentional to be random. And then the attic door opened. Wood creaked under weight. Something shifted above me, and the song finally reached its chorus. I covered my ears. It didn't help. I don't remember deciding to move. I just know that at some point I was standing in the hallway, barefoot on cold tile, staring up at the attic access panel like it had been staring back at me first. The singing wasn't loud anymore. It didn't need to be. It had settled into me, vibrating behind my eyes, threading itself through my thoughts. Every time I tried to remember a different song, anything else, my mind slid right back to it, like the tune had worn grooves into my brain. The attic door hung open by a few inches. Cold air spilled down, sharp and metallic, carrying a smell I didn't recognize at first. Not rot, not mold, something older, dry, like paper left too close to a flame but never burning. I told myself not to go up there. I said it out loud. I'm not doing this. My voice sounded wrong, thin, like the room didn't want to hold it. The singing paused. That silence was worse than any sound so far. It felt expectant, patient. Then I heard footsteps again, slow, careful, moving deeper into the attic, away from the opening, as if whatever was up there wanted me to follow. That was the moment of paralyzing dread. I understood then that this wasn't about fear anymore. Fear was optional. What it wanted was participation. I climbed the ladder. Each rung was colder than the last. My hand stuck slightly to the metal, skin protesting. When my head broke the plane of the attic, the smell hit me full force, and my stomach turned. The attic wasn't what it should have been. It was larger. Not impossibly so, no warped geometry, no fantasy nonsense. But wrong in a way that made my depth perception fail. The insulation was pressed flat in wide paths, like something had been pacing back and forth for a long time. Christmas decorations were stacked neatly against one wall, boxes labeled in my handwriting I didn't remember doing. At the far end of the attic, something moved. I couldn't see it clearly. The light bulb dangling from the ceiling flickered, casting uneven shadows, but I could hear breathing, not heavy, not strained, controlled, almost polite. The singing resumed. This time it came from several places at once, not multiple voices. One voice folded over itself, harmonizing with echoes that didn't match the space. I tried to back down the ladder. My foot missed the rung. I slammed onto the attic floor hard enough to knock the air out of me. The ladder scraped backward, then fell, clattering down into the hallway below. I lay there, gasping, staring at the open square where escape had been seconds earlier. When it stopped a few feet away, the singing ended abruptly. Silence dropped like a held breath. Then it spoke. Not to me, through me. My mouth opened, my jaw moved, and the words came out in a voice that was mine but hollowed out, flattened, like it had been worn smooth. Merry Christmas, I screamed. The sound ripped out of me raw and panicked, and the thing recoiled, not in pain, but surprise. That was my one moment. I lunged past it, slipping on frost, tearing skin off my palms as I scrambled toward the far wall. There was another opening there. Not a door, not a hatch, a space where the insulation had been pulled away to reveal darkness beyond the beams. The singing came back, frantic now, wrong notes colliding. The thing reached for me, fingers too long, bending in ways fingers shouldn't. I rolled into the dark. I fell, not far, maybe 6 feet. I landed hard on my side in a narrow space between walls, an old crawl space I didn't know existed. My ribs screamed, my vision blurred. Above me, the attic opening closed, not slammed, gently, like someone tucking something away. The singing faded. I lay there shaking, breath coming in sharp, broken pulls, waiting for footsteps, waiting for hands, waiting for the song to start again inside my head. It didn't. Instead, there was knocking. From the other side of the wall, 3 slow knocks, a pause, then 3 more. I pressed my hands over my ears and sobbed into the dust. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Eventually, exhaustion won. When I woke up, daylight was leaking through a crack in the wall. I tore my way out like an animal. The apartment was empty, silent, normal. The ladder was back in place. No frost, no snow. I left everything behind and drove until my gas light came on. That was years ago. I don't live there anymore. I don't live anywhere long. I move every December. I avoid quiet places. I don't listen to music at night. But it still finds me. Not every year, not the same way. Sometimes it's just a tune drifting through a store speaker that makes my hands go numb. Sometimes it's a knock on a hotel wall at 3 a.m. that stops after I hold my breath. Last night my phone rang. No caller ID. When I answered, there was no voice. Just singing. Soft, careful, familiar. I'm telling you this because it's almost Christmas again. Because you might hear it and think it's harmless. Because you might listen too closely. If you hear singing where it doesn't belong, don't follow it. It's not here to scare you. It's here to remember you.